You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Boston College. I am your host, AJ Black. Happy Monday, everyone. On this week's show, we're going to start diving into summer training camp, which opened up for Boston College on Friday. Today, we're going to look at the first two practices Boston College held. We'll hear comments from Jeff Hafley and dissect some of the things that they did during practice and some of the takeaways that we had from this weekend. But before we get into that, let's chat about some of the big news from the weekend. You know, on Locked On Boston College, some of the news that we get into isn't always positive, and today that's going to be one of those days. On Sunday, former Boston College tight end Hunter Long looked to be seriously injured in a practice for the Miami Dolphins. Long, a third-round draft pick who played tight end for the Eagles, and he had a huge season for BC last year, was All-American second or third team, I forget which right now, was playing in an 11-on-11 drills and was pushed out of bounds on just a routine catch up the middle and up the sideline. And it looked like his leg buckled underneath him, according to reports, and he had to be taken out on a cart. When they are taken out on a cart, that's never a good sign. Now, we don't know what the injury is right now. We don't know what the damage was. But when you see a player go down this early, that's not good news. And Long was setting himself up probably to be one of the top tight ends on Miami this year, and this could really derail that. So obviously you want to wish the kid a lot of success in terms of his rehab, and cross your fingers that this injury is not as bad as it sounds. Let's flip it over to the positives now. We'll go to the Olympics, which closed on Sunday, and there was a Boston College player that won a medal. Christy Mewis, who was a soccer player for BC Women's, was on the women's national team, and she won a bronze medal as the team finished in third. Canada was the gold, and Sweden the silver. That was an incredible game. If you have not checked that out, check that out. So Mewis, she wins the bronze medal, and that's a good news for her. And a sport I know I've never talked about on the podcast, women's golf. I want to give a shout out to Biblana Liu, who advanced to the Thursday's quarterfinal round of match play at the 121st Annual Women's Amateur Championship. She's in the round of 32, and so congratulations to her. The golf team does not get a lot of talk, and this is obviously great news for them. Now, we're going to talk a little bit, actually, the most of our talk today is going to be about spring training camp, and we'll talk about Jeff Hafley's comments and some of the things that I heard about and noticed at practice this weekend. But before we do that, I want to tell you about Locked On ACC. With training camps kicking off across the nation, you're going to want to check out Locked On ACC. It's hosted by Candace Cooper, and she has a rotating group of co-hosts that are all from the Locked On Network, including yours truly, who co-hosts on the Wednesday shows. So check out Locked On ACC if you want to learn about the other teams in the ACC and hear Boston College talked about as well. She's a big Boston College believer for this year. Check out Locked On AC wherever you get your podcasts. Now let's chat about Stat Hero. Did you know that 85% of people who play daily fantasy sports games lose? It is really that surprising? The game is rigged against you. You're playing against thousands of other lineups, not to mention experts who have more tools and more time. You don't stand a chance. Now here is Stat Hero. It's the first ever daily fantasy sports book that puts the player in control and winning within reach. Here's how it works. Stat Hero shows you their lineups and dares you to beat them. It's you versus the house in a head-to-head fantasy matchup. You name the stakes, you name your stakes. Winner takes all. You have the advantage. Stat Hero is showing you their lineups ahead of time. No one else does that. You are in total control. Stat Hero is a daily fantasy sport the way it was meant to be, one-on-one. Play Stat Hero now and change the odds. Go to stathero.com/lockedon and sign up for free right now. You can get up to 3 times back on your first play. They're giving you a 300% match. That's unheard of. Go to stathero.com/lockedon. Again, that is stathero.com/lockedon. The Locked On Boston College podcast is supported in part by the Charlestown Law Group. You need to know about the Charlestown Law Group. If you or someone you know have recently received a traffic violation, speeding, or other moving violation that you would like to contest, then you need to call the Charlestown Law Group. Attorney Jason Campbell and his team can and will help you fight the ticket. Did you know that a moving violation can stay on your record for 5 to 6 years? One conviction can cost you thousands of dollars. If you want to win, you generally need an attorney. Why not hire a professional litigator with a track record of success? Jason Campbell at the Charlestown Law Group will fight for you. He's a proud Boston College grad. Attorney Campbell is an experienced litigator that will be able to tell you if you have merit before you go to court, saving you both time and money. The Charlestown Law Group will fight tickets anywhere in Massachusetts, and they have discounted rates for Boston College students and alumni. Charlestown Law Group specializes in traffic violations, and they will fight for you. Call them immediately at 617-872-8652. That's 617-872-8652 for a free consultation, or visit charlestownlawgroup.com. Go Eagles!
Excited. Excited we're out here together. Excited I'm not wearing a mask. Excited I'm seeing you guys in person. Like I said, Rich is a lot taller in person than I thought he was on Zoom. Just excited to be around the guys. I feel like we know them a lot better. We know the staff obviously a lot better. There's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of confidence. Just excited to go to work. I couldn't wait for today. I couldn't sleep last night. I was up early. The guys were up early. So just very grateful that we're out here again and have an opportunity to practice and have a real training camp.
That was Boston College head coach Jeff Hafley on Friday after their first practice. Now, Boston College football opened their summer practice on Friday. It's their first, I believe, 15 practices for the summer that the staff gets to get going and hopefully get their team ready for the upcoming 2021 season. Now, Hafley, he spoke. This is the first time he got to speak to the media, as he said in his comments, live since, I believe, March of 2020. Everything else has been via Zoom, and Boston College is doing everything live this year, except for their Sunday press conference, and what I think is really great is their away game press conferences are now you're able to call in as a media member. So we'll be able to get into all of those. Now, full disclosure here, I was not at that practice. I had a family event this weekend I couldn't get out of, so I wasn't able to go there. My hope is to get to some practices this summer, but I was not there. But here's some of the big takeaways from some of Jeff Hafley's comments. So I'll get into what he talked about in this section, and then in the final section, we'll talk about some of the player stuff that you're going to want to know about, and some of the big takeaways in terms of scheme and some of the big pieces there. So one of the big things Jeff Hafley talked about was the battle at linebacker. He talked about, that this is going to be a positional battle that you're going to want to watch all year long. And when he talked about it, he mentioned specifically that, there's everybody everyone on that roster is fighting for that spot, and that it's going to be a huge position battle, as every guy wants to get those two starting spots. So now look at who is available for BC. You have Isaiah Graham-Mobley. He calls him IGM. And he is a linebacker from Temple. He's a transfer who I know the staff is really looking forward to seeing. And he's got Vinny DePalma and Cam Arnold, Bryce Steele, Hugh Davis, and Joe Sparacio, and he's very excited about all those. So here's what he had to say. There's really good competition in there right now, Hafley said. The guys have done a great job, and Vinny DePalma, Isaiah Graham-Mobley, IGM, the transfer from Temple, and we got some good young guys mixing in there. It's a really good, smart group of guys. Cam Arnold is a guy that has looked really good in spring, who moved from strong safety to linebacker, and he gives us a very athletic guy, up about 228 pounds, he said. Between Cam, Vinny, IGM, Bryce Steele, Hugh Davis, Joe Sparacio, I know I'm listing a bunch of guys, but whomever looks the best in camp and is the most productive will play. Now, he mentioned that specifically. It's coach speak. A lot of the times when you hear a coach at a press conference, a lot of what they say is coach speak, and it drives me crazy listening to some people write stories about these press conferences, and they really dive into the coach speak. They just love it. Yeah, that guy looked great, or they're working really hard this year. No kidding, they say that every year. Why is that any different than anything? So you really got to kind of parse out some of the good nuggets to get past some of the coach speak, and it's not Hafley's fault. Every coach does it. Belichick does it. Alex Cora does it. Nick Saban does it. Everyone does it. It just as from a media perspective, I want to parse it out. So the linebacker position, they're battling, and I think Hafley is right. He's talked about how every position is going to be a battle this year. Now, if Emmett Moorhead has a huge preseason. Is he going to take out Phil Dracovic? No, that's not going to happen. But what I think Hafley wants is for these guys to not settle. He said that himself in the second press conference, that he wants competition because that helps players rise up. And I think that's a big thing for him. He wants his players to keep motivated. You don't want your team to settle back, to feel comfortable, to feel like, hey, I'm the starting left tackle. I'm not going to push myself because it doesn't really matter. You want to feel that nipping at your heels, and that will make you a better player, and it'll make the team better. So he talked a lot about that, and I think that's important. The other piece that Hafley talked about in terms of his overall scheme is, this is their first practice in like a normal practice, really, because they don't have the COVID protocols anymore. The whole team is 100% vaccinated now. The staff is vaccinated. They can do whatever they want. But overall, in general, too, they can pace out their schedule now. Like, think back to what they had to do last year. And you may not remember how it worked, but this spring was 5 practices. They had 5, and then it was gone. And then all of a sudden, Jeff Hafley had like 3 months where he had like, I forget how many practices they got, but they got a lot. And he had to figure out how to pace that out without killing his team. Because, when you're used to having a month of training camp and now you have 3 months of training camp, that's a big change. So this year, it's back to the basics. They had their normal spring practice. They had their spring game. This year, they have their normal summer practices. But he needs to make sure, as he said, he wants to make sure that he paces that out. Even though it's still condensed and it's not as heavy as it was last year, he wants to make sure that he doesn't wear his team out. He said specifically he wants his team as energetic and as fast on the first day as they are in that first game. And that's a challenge he made for his staff. He wants to make sure that, the players are not burnt out. So he's going to schedule it so that they're not going, that there's time to recover, time to rejuvenate, time to take care of themselves. So there'll be practices, that won't be as heavy at certain days, maybe more of walkthroughs, quieter things where they can kind of get through it in comparison to some of those days where it's heavy pad on pad kind of thing. So that's an important thing, I think, too, for Jeff Hafley to look at, because that'll prevent injuries. That'll prevent his team from getting dinged up because, as I said in the first segment, Hunter Long already got hurt in the NFL. It happens. Look at what happened at summer camp last year. Kobe White got hurt. Injuries happen, but you can still, as a staff member, try to prevent the preventable ones. And I think Hafley will do that for his players and his team. And just a fun thing, I love the fun parts of press conferences too, because you get the serious stuff. They're talking about the game. They're talking about getting themselves ready. But Hafley also talked about that this is the first time that he's really gotten to experience Boston, right? You think that he lived in Boston for a year plus now, that he's been able to. But with the pandemic, he says, he hasn't really gotten to do the things you would expect people to do in Beantown. But he's done that now. He's starting to get into it. He said that he got to try out the duck boats, the swan boats. He took his family and kids out to lunch and dinner. However, he has not been to a professional sporting event yet. Well, which is fair, because I think baseball only started in the last month and a half or so, and basketball and hockey, I think, only had like a couple weeks of it. So he didn't really have a chance. And he said, it's going to take another 6 months, so end of the season, before he would actually get to another game. So that was just kind of interesting to think about. Like, how weird is it for a guy? He uproots his family from Ohio to Boston, and then they're slammed with the pandemic, where they're basically locked down between Boston, their home, wherever that is, and Boston College, where he can't really go anywhere else. He can't explore the town that he lives in because everything is so restricted at that point. So it's nice to know that Hafley can kind of do that now. So and then he ended that comment. I think it was Rich Thompson from the Herald said to him, hey, the duck boats are used for championship teams. Like, you see the Patriots and the Red Sox using it. And Hafley, without even skipping a beat, goes, hey, we won 6 games last year. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. So he's very humble, and he's not jumping. I think a lot of people are worried about him reading the press about, high expectations for this upcoming season. I don't think I would worry about where Hafley sees it. He's going to be locked in to make his team better. Now, In our second segment on spring practice, I'm going to talk to you about some of the positional positional fights that are going on, the positional battles, and some of the scheme changes you might hear about, and some of the player names that are already starting to pop off the roster. But before we do that, let's chat about Built Bar. Built Bar is a protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. It's 100% covered in chocolate, and it is delicious. You know, sometimes protein bars can be chalky or gritty. They're not really fun to eat. The Built Bar, my goodness, you need to try them. Some of them are so good, like the coconut almond. I have the grasshopper cookie one that I don't know if it's still out, but even if it isn't, they have limited edition ones all the time that are so good. And you need to hear the macros for it. 17 grams of protein, only 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and 4 net carbs. When you head on over to BuiltBar.com and use promo code LOCK15, you'll get 15% off your first order. Again, use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at BuiltBar.com. Now, time to talk about BetOnline.ag. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your sports action. Baseball season is in full swing, and you can track all the action at BetOnline. Get all the latest news, odds, and info for all your sporting needs, including Major League Baseball and MMA and UFC action. And with football coming back, you got to check it out as well. For the next pitch, head on over to BetOnline on your laptop or mobile device and check out all the great sporting news, sign-up bonuses, and contest information. Don't sit on the sidelines anymore, as this is your chance to get into the game as teams prep for their run to the playoffs. Head to the website now and use promo code LOCK15 for a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. That is a win right there. You know the bookmakers hate that. Head on over to BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. This is Locked On Boston College. AJ Black here. We're talking the start of summer pro football, and I am really excited. When football comes back, it signals to me the end of summer, which is a bummer in one sense. But man, I am always excited when football comes back, the NFL, college, whatever it is. I could watch any of it, and I'm really pumped for this season. So some of the things that popped up, as I already mentioned, the linebackers were a big position that came up. The other position that I think a lot of people are rightfully concerned about is the defensive end position. Now, this is a position that lost Max Roberts, easily their biggest pass rusher that they had last year. They had to replace him, and they have a bunch of guys that are returning that have a bunch of question marks next to them, and I think it's fair to question their ability to rush the passer. That's Marcus Valdez, Brandon Barlow, and Shataz Salah. Now, all the talk about them already is off the charts. They worked very hard with Phil Matus, the strength and conditioning coach, over the summer to get themselves bigger and faster. And I think you're going to see that. Valdez spoke to the media, and he said, that they're working just to improve at everything that goes into pass rushing. Hands, hips, studying offensive film, he said. And then Hafley said, Shataz looks bigger, he looks faster, Barlow, same thing. Obviously, Valdez, there's no one who works as hard as that guy. We got a couple of young guys who have showed some flashes. I think he's meaning Nito Ekpala and Donovan Ezaraku. But it's really good to see Shataz, Barlow, Marcus, those guys coming out. We need them. We need to rush the quarterback better than we did last year. We have to get off the field on third down. They have to win their one-on-ones. Yeah, Hafley's not making excuses. He's saying that they need to be better at this. And it's good to hear that these guys are doing better because, just from an objective perspective, that's a position I would be worried about. I don't think Boston College has elite pass rushers yet. Now, if Shataz Salah gets bigger and faster, faster, that's scary because he's 6'4", and if he can get to the quarterback, that's good. I've always thought that Marcus Valdez, he just seemed like he was always like a hair away from sacking the quarterback, and I wonder with some work with Vince Agobase, their defensive line coach, and a little bit of training, maybe that hair will become a sack. So it'd be good to see where that position goes. And as they mentioned with the young guys, we want that competition. Can Akpala or does Donovan Ezaraku, maybe some of the other guys, can they jump up to steal that position? But that's definitely a position worth watching. Another position I know a lot of people are talking about is the tight end position. Trey Barry, they've showed some film already, and you can see I put it up on Locked On BC's Twitter account. He looks like he's going to be a huge problem for other teams this year. Like, I'm not ready yet to say that he's going to be the next Hunter Long, because Hunter Long had a hell of a year last year. But, man, he looks like he's going to be a big target for Phil Dracovic. And I think he could be faster and leaner than Hunter Long, which makes him even more dangerous. I saw someone giving him stats comparisons to Kyle Pitts, and I've heard that a few times. Now, if he's half of what Kyle Pitts is, Boston College fans are in for a treat, because you get Phil Jurkovec out there with Zay Flowers, Trey Berry, and some of these other kids. He's going to be special. Now, he already had a bunch of big catches during practice, and had the coaching staff singing his praises after the practice. Hafley said he's enormous, extremely long, and he is very hard to cover. Bruce Feldman was already praising him, and I think Berry is going to be special. And Hafley went out of his way to say that the tight ends are going to be a position they're going to throw the ball to them. So it's not going to be just Berry. He also pointed out Spencer Witter, Joey Luchetti, Charlie Gordon. He mentioned all of these guys at practice. So I think Barry could be the star of that group, but don't sell short some of these other players that are going to be there as well. And of course, the final thing that we're going to talk about today is the running back position. Hafley talked about how the need for the team to be more balanced is going to be there. They're going to need to be able to run the ball, and he feels that they're going to be able to do that. He talks about Travis Levy. He loves Travis Levy. He says he's a good leader in the clubhouse, that he's well respected, and I've heard that over and over again. He's a guy that they really like. But he's going to show it on the field. And, he said as well that, Alex Sinkfield, who in the notes for the practice had a huge run already, an explosive running back, but to go with him, Pat Garwo's back. He's back at practice. I remember saying that he was injured. He is back. And Xavier Coleman, an exciting freshman. They all got noticed by Hafley. So these are guys that we're going to have to watch for. And just as a reminder for those folks that are like, AJ, why aren't you at practice to watch these? Just for most of these practices, you get 15 minutes, and usually the 15 minutes is not much of anything. You get to see a few things here and there. So even the stuff I can't see, even if I was there, I wouldn't be able to tell you about it because I can't see it. It's a weird system that Boston College has. It's been there for years, I'm sure other programs have the same thing, but I only would be able to tell you about 15 minutes of practice, and I can't tell you anything specifics. I can tell you, hey, so and so had a good catch and things like that, but that's the way the media works. So in case you wanted to know what I can tell you and what I can't, so that's where it's at. So on tomorrow's show, there's going to be another press conference with Hafley and some more players. I'll jump into any interesting things that pop off of that. Hopefully, we'll get an update on Hunter Long, and we'll get into any other Boston College news as it comes out. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at LockedOnBC. I am the editor and publisher of BC Bulletin. You can check out my work at bcbulletin.com. I'm AJ Black. My Twitter is at AJBlack_BC, and I host the show every day, and I really appreciate all of you that listen to this. Take care, everyone, and make sure you subscribe to us on our YouTube channel. Just look up Locked On Boston College. Take care, everyone. We'll see you again tomorrow.